Ilara had always walked through life with grace, intelligence, and a certain quiet pride that made her stand out among the citizens of Zarathia. Her silver-blue eyes, sharp and observant, often lingered on things most people overlooked. She moved with the fluidity of someone who had been trained, not just in diplomacy, but in understanding the subtleties of every interaction. As the daughter of one of the most influential alien families in the galaxy, she was expected to marry someone of high status, someone who could maintain or expand their family's political influence. Yet, for Ilara, the thought of marriage was complicated. She had spent so long trying to define herself outside the expectations of her family that she had forgotten what it meant to simply want someone by her side. Marcus, on the other hand, had lived his entire life quietly, unnoticed by most. A human engineer working in a small workshop on the lower levels of Zarathia, he built things that helped others, but rarely drew attention to himself. He was lean with a modest build, and his brown eyes often carried a warmth that few could mistake, though few ever looked his way. Marcus had known Ilara for 10 years, not personally, not in the way most people knew her, but from afar. He admired her brilliance, her calm authority, and the way she treated everyone with a fairness he rarely saw. Over the years, he had found ways to help her discreetly, always staying in the shadows, never expecting acknowledgement. A malfunctioning translator he fixed before an important meeting, a discreet repair on her hover transport after a minor accident, anonymous gifts left in her workspace. Small, quiet gestures, each one born from a love that had grown silently but steadily over a decade. It was on a warm afternoon, the city bathed in the soft glow of the twin suns, that Ilara first truly noticed Marcus, not for who he was to her, but for what he was. She had been attending a diplomatic gathering, surrounded by dignitaries and influential figures from across multiple star systems. Many tried to impress her, hoping to secure her favor, but Marcus was different. He was present only because he had been asked to assist with a technical demonstration of some human-made devices. He didn't speak loudly or try to draw attention. He simply adjusted a small device, explaining its functions to interested parties with clarity and patience. Ilara watched him for a moment, curious. There was something calm about him, something that didn't demand recognition but somehow commanded respect. She noted the subtle way he noticed when a guest needed assistance, how he moved without arrogance, and the faint, almost imperceptible pride he took in his work. It was so unlike the people she normally met, so unlike anyone who had approached her for her status. She found herself drawn to the quiet strength he carried, the humility that belied intelligence and competence. After the gathering, Ilara returned to her residence, her mind unusually restless. She spoke with her family, who, as expected, began discussing her marriage prospects. She nodded politely, listening to their suggestions, but none of the names they mentioned stirred any interest. They were all influential, all powerful, and all predictable in their arrogance. Her thoughts kept drifting back to Marcus, the human engineer who had caught her attention without even trying. Marcus, meanwhile, was unaware that Ilara had even noticed him. He had spent years observing her from a distance, ensuring her safety and comfort whenever possible, yet always carefully avoiding any direct interaction that might reveal his feelings. His heart had quietly carried hope, longing, and admiration, but he had never dared to believe that a woman of Ilara's status could notice him in return. It wasn't until a sudden turn of events that their paths began to cross in ways neither had anticipated. Ilara's family, frustrated by her indecision, announced that she would marry a human chosen by her advisors, a compromise meant to blend diplomacy with her own preferences. Ilara was taken aback. She hadn't expected her family to consider a human as a potential partner, yet here was an opportunity that challenged her understanding of alliances, power, and choice. When Marcus received the invitation, he felt a mix of disbelief and quiet joy. This was a chance he had never dared to imagine. For years, he had loved Alara from afar, careful not to interfere with her life in ways that might compromise her dignity or safety. Now, she was being asked to marry him, the humble human she had barely noticed. He felt the weight of the moment, understanding that this was more than chance. It was destiny, though he had no idea how she truly felt yet. The first meeting in a neutral setting was carefully arranged. Alara entered the room with a composed expression, her mind cautious. Marcus stood quietly as always, his demeanor calm, respectful and sincere. He greeted her politely, without any hint of nervousness, though inside he was brimming with emotions he could barely contain. Their conversation began with neutral topics: the weather, recent city developments, and the practical matters of a union between a human and an alien. Alara noted the way Marcus listened carefully, never interrupting, and how his responses were thoughtful and measured. There was an authenticity to him, a sense that he cared not for appearances or status but for understanding and truth. She found herself relaxing in his presence, a feeling she had rarely experienced with anyone in her social circle. Over the next few weeks, Alara and Marcus spent time together, attending public events, walking through the quieter areas of Zarathia, and discussing ideas about the future. Marcus's humility never faltered. He never boasted of his accomplishments or sought to impress her. Instead, he helped subtly, showing concern for her safety and comfort in ways so gentle that she almost missed them. Alara began to notice the small things: how he remembered her preferences, how he anticipated potential problems and solved them quietly, how he made her feel safe and respected without ever demanding attention. One evening, while walking through a garden suspended above the city, Alara paused to observe the stars. Marcus stood beside her, silent, letting her thoughts drift. She spoke softly, sharing fears and doubts she had never voiced aloud. Marcus listened, offering words of encouragement, never pressuring her, never judging. It was in that moment that Alara realized she felt something she had not expected: comfort, trust, and an unexpected warmth towards someone she had assumed was ordinary. As days turned into weeks, the decision became clearer. Alara's family pressed for a commitment, and she found herself drawn to Marcus not because of status or advantage, but because of who he was. There was a quiet strength in him, a patience and kindness that made her feel seen in ways she had never known. Her curiosity, respect, and admiration for him grew with each passing moment, though she still did not understand the depth of his feelings. Marcus, for his part, was careful not to overwhelm her. Every gesture, every word was measured, balancing his decade-long love with the need to respect her autonomy. He knew that revealing his feelings too soon could change everything, yet he could not hide the joy and hope that lit his eyes whenever she smiled or spoke to him. Then came the day when Alara agreed to marry Marcus. It was not a grand announcement or a sudden decision. It was quiet, thoughtful, and mutual. She chose him not because she fully understood the depth of his feelings, but because she saw in him a rare authenticity, a gentle courage, and a calm wisdom that she had never encountered before. Marcus's heart soared, though he remained composed, hiding the overwhelming emotions that threatened to spill over. Their engagement was celebrated modestly, with family members and select dignitaries attending. Yet the real magic of the moment was not in the ceremony or the guests, but in the unspoken connection between the two of them. Alara looked at Marcus and felt a sense of security and possibility, while Marcus quietly thanked the universe for finally giving him a chance to be by her side. Though the world outside saw a simple human and a remarkable alien coming together, the story that truly mattered was one of silent devotion, patience, and the quiet heroism of love that had been waiting, unnoticed, for 10 years. Marcus had spent a decade loving her without expectation, And now, finally, he had the chance to protect, support, and cherish her openly. As they walked together back to their shared home that evening, the city lights of Zarathia reflecting softly around them, Marcus felt a mix of excitement and responsibility. He understood that his life had changed forever, and that he must rise to meet the challenges of being not just a husband, but a partner worthy of someone as extraordinary as Ilara. Ilara, for her part, was beginning to understand that life with Marcus would not be ordinary. There was something subtle yet profound about his presence, a sense that he could face challenges with quiet strength and guide her through uncertainty with patience and intelligence. She did not yet know the full extent of his love, but she sensed its depth in the smallest gestures, a hand offered without hesitation, a look of understanding that spoke volumes, a thoughtfulness that seemed to anticipate her needs. And so their story began, not with grand declarations nor dramatic gestures, but with the quiet merging of two lives, one extraordinary and one humble, connected by respect, kindness, and the promise of something neither of them had fully imagined. Marcus had waited 10 years for this moment, and now, at last, he had it. Ilara had made a choice that would forever change both of their lives, unaware that the man beside her had loved her silently for a decade, and that his devotion would soon reveal itself in ways she could never have anticipated. The sun set over Zarathia, painting the city in hues of gold and violet, and the first chapter of their shared journey came to a close. It was a beginning built on patience, humility, and an unspoken love that waited silently, ready to shape their future in ways both extraordinary and profoundly human. Life in Zarathia had a rhythm that was both busy and unpredictable, and for Ilara and Marcus, their first weeks, as a married couple, were full of small, quiet discoveries. They shared a modest apartment on one of the lower levels of the city, away from the grandeur of her family estate. It was not luxurious, but it had warmth, and that was exactly what Ilara found herself needing. For Marcus, it was a dream come true, a life where he could finally be close to the woman he had loved for 10 years, though he still kept the depth of his feelings hidden, preferring to show care through action rather than words. Ilara quickly noticed how different Marcus was from anyone she had ever met. He did not care about status or influence. He cared about people, about solving problems, about making things work smoothly. One evening, she found him repairing a small hover device she had accidentally dropped. She had expected him to make it functional, but he also took the time to explain how it worked, patiently answering her questions without ever hinting that he considered himself superior. "You don't have to explain it," she said quietly. "I didn't mean to break it." Marcus shook his head, smiling faintly. "It's fine. I like fixing things. Besides, you should know how to handle it. You'll need it for your work." His words were simple, but the care behind them made her heart flutter in a way she had not expected. As days passed, Ilara began noticing other small gestures. He would leave her favorite fruit in the kitchen without mention, adjust the temperature of the apartment before she arrived, or quietly handle minor disturbances in the building without drawing attention. It was almost as if he had anticipated her needs before she even realized them herself. Each act made her feel cared for, though she did not yet understand why someone would give such attention without seeking reward or recognition. Their evenings often became times of conversation, not formal discussions or political strategy, but small, human exchanges that Marcus had always treasured. They would talk about the stars, about the differences between human and alien culture, about the hopes and fears that were often too difficult to voice in public. For Ilara, these moments were strangely grounding. They reminded her that there was life beyond politics, beyond appearances, beyond expectations. Marcus's presence was quiet but reassuring, and gradually she found herself feeling lighter, freer than she had in years. Despite the calm of their home life, the outside world did not stop scrutinizing their union. Alara's family and alien peers whispered doubts about her choice of husband. A human, really, some would mutter, shaking their heads in disbelief. Others were more blunt, hinting that Marcus was not capable of protecting her, of understanding the complexities of alien politics, of standing up to the dangers that came with her status. Alara tried to ignore it, but small doubts crept into her mind. She had chosen him for his humility and kindness, but could a humble human truly meet the demands of her life? Marcus sensed her unease but never confronted it directly. Instead, he continued quietly, subtly proving his worth in ways that mattered. During a diplomatic visit, when one of her alien colleagues attempted to manipulate a technical demonstration to make her look unprepared, Marcus intervened discreetly. He adjusted the system so that it worked flawlessly, without making it obvious that he had interfered. Alara noticed, of course, but she assumed it was mere competence, unaware that the human standing beside her had been watching, planning, and acting for her safety. As the days turned into weeks, the bond between them deepened. Alara began to appreciate the subtlety of his gestures. He did not need to proclaim his love. It was evident in how he anticipated her needs, how he supported her without comment, how he made her feel secure. She began to rely on him in ways she had never relied on anyone before. Marcus, for his part, found joy in every small interaction, every moment he could make her life easier or happier. He still kept the depth of his feelings secret, believing that she should come to trust him fully before knowing how long he had loved her. One afternoon, as they were walking through a quieter district of Zarathia, a sudden commotion erupted. A group of thugs, hired by unknown political rivals, attempted to create chaos near a marketplace. People panicked, and Alara froze momentarily, unsure how to react. Marcus immediately moved beside her, shielding her with his body and calmly guiding her through a safe path. He acted without hesitation, without drawing attention to himself, ensuring that she was safe before thinking of anything else. Alara could not help but notice the determination in his eyes, the quiet confidence that radiated from him, and for the first time she felt a deep sense of trust. After the incident, Alara asked, "How did you know where to go? How did you react so quickly?" Marcus smiled softly, shrugging. "I just stayed calm and watched the people around us. You'll learn that humans have ways of solving problems quietly." His answer was modest, but Alara felt the weight of it in her heart. She realized that his calm, humble demeanor masked an intelligence and courage that surpassed what she had imagined. Later that evening, Marcus left a small note on the dining table. It was a simple piece of paper with neat handwriting. "I've always watched out for you, and I always will. You don't have to do everything alone." Alara found it and read it carefully, feeling a strange warmth spread through her chest. The note spoke to her in a way that words during conversation never could. She felt the first stirrings of understanding that Marcus's devotion went far deeper than mere affection. It was enduring, patient, and unwavering. Despite the growing closeness, tension simmered beneath the surface. Alara's alien peers continued to question her choice, and even her own doubts about Marcus's abilities crept in. He was kind, he was intelligent, he was thoughtful, but could he face the dangers that came with her life? She wondered if she had chosen comfort over capability, love over practicality. Marcus, aware of her doubts but unwilling to push, continued his quiet acts of care. He studied her routines, prepared for unexpected dangers, and ensured that their home and travels remained safe. His love was patient, steady, and unassuming. He allowed her to see him as a partner, as a friend, as someone she could rely on, even if she did not yet fully understand the depth of his feelings. Then came a message that would change everything. A major diplomatic summit was planned in Zarathia, and threats of sabotage were rumored to target attendees. Alara was expected to attend, representing both her family and her species. The news unsettled her, and she confided in Marcus as they prepared for the event. "I don't know if I can handle this alone," she admitted quietly, looking down. "You won't have to," Marcus said softly. "I'll be there. I'll make sure you're safe. That's what I'm here for." His words were simple, yet they carried the promise of 10 years of silent devotion. Alara looked at him, a new understanding dawning. Perhaps this human, humble and quiet, was stronger than anyone she had ever known. The summit arrived, and Marcus's preparations became evident. He had studied the layout of the hall, the potential risks, and the schedules of key figures. He moved discreetly, ensuring security systems functioned, monitoring anomalies and positioning himself close to Alara without drawing attention. During the event, he deflected minor threats, adjusted malfunctioning equipment, and subtly guided Alara away from danger multiple times. Each action went unnoticed by the larger crowd, but Alara began to notice patterns, small coincidences that felt almost deliberate. After the summit, she approached him privately. Did you do all this?" she asked, voice tinged with awe and confusion. Marcus looked at her, his calm expression unwavering. "I just wanted to make sure you were safe, that's all." Alara studied him for a long moment, beginning to see that his humility was not ignorance or weakness. There was strength here, quiet and steady, the kind that could protect, support, and endure. She felt a deep sense of gratitude and a stirring of emotion she had never fully acknowledged before. Back at their apartment, Marcus left another note, similar to the first, this time more personal. "You don't have to understand everything about me right now. Just know that I've always cared and I always will." Alara read it, feeling a combination of surprise, warmth, and curiosity. She realized that his love had been constant, patient, and unwavering for 10 years, hidden beneath quiet actions and gentle gestures. By the end of the week, Alara was no longer merely curious about Marcus. She began to feel a genuine affection growing, born not from grandeur, status, or expectation, but from the everyday acts of care, the subtle intelligence, and the quiet courage he displayed. She began to see him not just as a humble human, but as someone extraordinary in ways she had never imagined. The first part of their married life had been gentle yet transformative. Alara was beginning to understand that love could be patient, steady, and expressed through action rather than words. Marcus, for his part, was quietly delighted, content to continue showing his devotion without demanding acknowledgement, knowing that the seeds he had planted over 10 years were beginning to bloom. Yet, even in this calm, a tension lingered. Alara did not yet know the full depth of Marcus's feelings, nor the extent of the risks he had quietly navigated to keep her safe. The challenges of her life, political intrigue, potential sabotage, and societal skepticism, were far from over. But for now, in the quiet moments between duties and expectations, they shared a connection that was real, tangible, and profoundly human. It was in these moments, walking side by side through the city streets, sharing meals in quiet comfort, or exchanging glances filled with unspoken understanding, that their bond strengthened. Alara began to trust Marcus not just as a husband, but as a partner, someone whose patience, intelligence, and quiet courage could stand beside her through whatever challenges the galaxy might throw at them. And Marcus, after 10 long years of loving in silence, finally had the chance to protect, support, and be near the woman he had always adored. His heart was full, but he knew that the true test of his devotion was still ahead. The world outside was unpredictable, and Alara's life was far from simple. But he was ready, and he would face every challenge, every danger, and every doubt to ensure that she remained safe, happy, and loved. The city lights of Zarathia glimmered against the twin moons that night, reflecting off the skyscrapers and quiet streets. In their modest apartment, Marcus and Alara sat together in comfortable silence, each lost in thought, each unaware of how much the other had begun to understand the truth. Their story was far from over. The seeds of love had been planted and nurtured, but the coming days would test their bond in ways they could not yet imagine. For now, however, there was peace, warmth, and the quiet promise of a love that had endured a decade without recognition, a love that was patient, steadfast, and quietly extraordinary. The city of Zarathia shimmered under the light of its twin suns, and for Ilara the days had become a mixture of routine and quiet anticipation. Life with Marcus had grown steady, filled with small gestures that spoke volumes. Yet beneath the calm surface, tensions in the galaxy were rising. Rumors of sabotage, political conspiracies, and hidden threats reached her ears daily. Ilara had always been capable of handling crises, but this time, she knew that danger was different. It was personal. She would have to rely not only on her skills, but also on the man who had quietly entered her life and won her trust. Marcus, as always, had anticipated the coming challenges. Weeks before, he had studied reports of potential threats to the upcoming intergalactic summit. His mind worked constantly, analyzing probabilities, preparing contingencies, and ensuring that Alara's safety would be his priority. He had arranged their apartment to be secure, studied escape routes, and familiarized himself with everyone who would be attending the summit. Each step was quiet, unassuming, and deliberate, just as it always had been. His love for Alara had been patient for 10 years, and now it guided his every action. The day of the summit arrived with tension in the air. Representatives from dozens of species had gathered in the Grand Hall of Zarathia, a place of gleaming panels and soft, hovering lights. Ilara moved among the dignitaries, graceful and composed, but her mind carried a hint of unease. Marcus walked beside her, unobtrusive, his calm presence a stark contrast to the nervous energy that surrounded them. He never left her side, yet never drew attention, always ready to intervene if needed. Suddenly, a commotion erupted near the entrance. A group of masked figures attempted to disrupt the event, moving quickly through the crowd. The dignitaries panicked, and the hall fell into chaos. Ilara froze for a moment, her instincts telling her to react, but fear creeping in despite years of training. Marcus immediately stepped forward, placing himself between her and the danger. He guided her smoothly, quietly, through the panic, using his knowledge of the hall's layout to avoid the attackers. "Trust me," he said softly, his hand brushing hers. The simple gesture carried a weight that spoke more than words could. They moved swiftly, Marcus anticipating every obstacle, deflecting minor attacks without confrontation, and ensuring Alara's safety. He was calm, composed, and precise, demonstrating a courage that many of her alien peers would have envied. All the while, Ilara felt a surge of admiration for him. She had seen his humility, his kindness, and his intelligence, but this was a bravery that could not be taught or bought. It was instinctive, born of a love that had waited 10 years to reveal itself. Once they were safely away from the chaos in a quieter corridor of the building, Ilara finally turned to him. How did you manage all of that?" Her voice was filled with awe, tinged with disbelief. Marcus looked at her, his expression calm but earnest. "I've always watched out for you. I've always known that one day I might need to do more than just help quietly. That day is today." His words, simple and sincere, finally conveyed what he had held inside for a decade. Alara's eyes widened. She had always sensed his devotion in subtle ways, his thoughtful gestures, the small protections, the notes left quietly, but she had never realized the depth of his feelings. Her heart stirred as the truth sank in. Marcus had loved her silently, patiently, for 10 years. Every small act, every precaution, every moment of care had been born of unwavering love. Tears blurred her vision, but not from fear or sadness. They came from the overwhelming realization that the humble human she had come to admire had sacrificed so much without ever seeking recognition. "All this time, you've loved me," she whispered, her voice trembling. Marcus nodded. I have for 10 years. And I will continue to for as long as I live. I wanted to be worthy of you, to protect you, to make sure you were safe and happy before I asked for anything in return. Alara's hands found his, holding them tightly. I had no idea. I never imagined. Her voice faltered as emotions welled up inside her. She realized that her admiration, trust, and growing affection for him were rooted not only in his actions, but in a love so deep and steadfast that it had endured years of waiting. In that moment, the tension of the summit, the chaos of the hall, and the dangers that surrounded them seemed distant. The only thing that mattered was the truth between them, the love that had been hidden but never diminished. Alara embraced Marcus, her heart full, and for the first time she allowed herself to feel the full weight of their connection. The next days were a mixture of relief and reflection. The summit had been secured, thanks largely to Marcus's planning and quick thinking. Alara's family and alien peers who had once doubted her choice now regarded Marcus with newfound respect. They saw not just a humble human, but a man of courage, intelligence, and unwavering devotion. Marcus had proven that heroism did not require status, wealth, or influence, only heart, mind, and determination. Alara and Marcus returned to their apartment, now more certain of their bond than ever. They spoke openly for the first time about the decade of secret devotion, the small gestures, the careful precautions, and the patient waiting. Each revelation brought them closer, weaving a tapestry of understanding, respect, and mutual admiration. I never knew, Alara said softly, tracing the lines of his face. Every little thing you did, every note, every act of care, it was for me, Marcus smiled, a faint blush coloring his cheeks. Yes, I wanted to show you, even if you didn't notice, that my love was real. That I would always be here, quietly, if you needed me. Alara felt tears of gratitude and love rise again. She realized that the ordinary human she had married was anything but ordinary. He was extraordinary in ways that mattered most: heart, loyalty, intelligence, and courage. She felt a deep joy in knowing that her choice had not only been right, but that she had found someone who would stand beside her through any challenge. In the weeks that followed, their life settled into a rhythm of partnership and understanding. Marcus continued his quiet acts of care, and Alara, now fully aware of his feelings, began to reciprocate in small, meaningful ways. She would leave notes of appreciation, offer subtle gestures of affection, and most importantly, trust him fully in every decision, knowing that he had her best interests at heart. Their love grew not from grand gestures or dramatic confessions, but from shared experiences, mutual respect, and the understanding that true devotion could endure quietly for years without recognition. Marcus had waited 10 years, and now, in the safety of each other's presence, that love flourished openly and freely. A few months later, they traveled together to another part of the galaxy for a diplomatic mission. This time, Alara moved with confidence, knowing that Marcus's presence was more than companionship. It was protection, insight, and unwavering support. Together, they navigated political complexities, technological challenges, and unexpected crises, each success reinforcing their bond. Marcus's humility never wavered. He worked quietly behind the scenes, solving problems and keeping Alara safe, always putting her first. Alara found herself marveling at him constantly. She realized that she had not only married a humble human, but had discovered a partner whose courage, intelligence, and patience were unmatched. His love had shaped him into someone capable of extraordinary acts, all guided by a desire to see her safe and happy. She admired him not only for what he had done, but for who he was, someone ordinary in appearance but extraordinary in every way that mattered. One evening, as they watched the twin moons rise over a distant planet, Alara spoke softly. I used to think that strength and courage meant showing power or influence. I see now that true strength is patience, care, and love. You've shown me that in ways I never expected." Marcus took her hand, holding it gently. "I just wanted to be here for you. That's all I've ever wanted." Alara leaned against him, feeling the steady rhythm of his heartbeat. For the first time, she felt completely at peace. The challenges of the galaxy, the expectations of her family, and the whispers of others no longer mattered. She had found someone who loved her wholly, quietly, and faithfully. Someone who would always stand beside her, not for power or status, but for her, simply for her. Their story, once filled with quiet longing and unspoken devotion, had blossomed into a love that was visible, enduring, and deeply human. Marcus's decade of patient love had not only protected Alara, but had also transformed both their lives, showing that even in a galaxy filled with extraordinary beings and dazzling technology, the heart of a humble human could be the most extraordinary force of all. As the moons cast their gentle glow over the city, and the distant stars sparkled like scattered diamonds, Alara and Marcus sat together in quiet contentment. Their hands intertwined, their hearts connected, and their love, patient, enduring, and true, had finally found its moment to shine. The galaxy around them was vast, full of wonders and dangers alike, but within the quiet warmth of their bond, Alara and Marcus had discovered something even greater, a love that could endure, protect, and thrive against all odds. A love that had waited 10 years in silence and was now free to grow, strong and unwavering, as they faced the future together, side by side. And so, the story of the humble human and the extraordinary alien woman came to a perfect, heartwarming close, not in grand gestures or flashy heroics, but in the quiet, enduring power of love, patience, and trust. Marcus had finally revealed the depths of his devotion, and Alara had embraced it fully. Together, they were unstoppable, a testament to the truth that sometimes the greatest heroes are not those who seek glory, but those who quietly, steadfastly, love with all their heart.